Hello my friends, how are you? Are you well? Tonight I decided to record another video, and in this video I'm going to look at this funny thing that happens when you're trying to speak in English. And then you just can't recall a particular word that you know for a fact that you know, but you just cannot recall it, you can't think of it. And then as the conversation progresses, there are more words escaping you, evading you on a constant basis, and then you start experiencing the fluency issue, the typical issue whereby you can't really think of the right word to say, of the right thing to say, when words kind of mix up in your brain, you experience that issue to an ever-increasing degree, and it might actually get to a stage whereby you just get completely stuck for words, But the very nature of it is that the moment you start forcefully trying to recall things, right, that's what actually exacerbates that issue, The force factor, the fact that you're actually forcing yourself, if that factor is removed, your speech is going to happen so much more fluently. You'll be probably using simpler vocabulary, but if you don't force yourself over time, all those words that are only in your passive vocabulary will start emerging through your speech, because you'll be losing all your inhibitions. You will not constantly put strain on your brain. It's another thing that rhymes, Don't put strain onto your brain, my dear fellow foreign English speakers. And if you don't, it's going to become so much more easier to speak, In the very beginning, it might seem to you that your speech is way too simplistic and you kind of feel obliged to use some more sophisticated vocabulary and things like that, But sophistication is always just a matter of perspective. That's a fact, my friends. What's simplistic for one person might be quite sophisticated and quite fancy vocabulary, so to speak, for someone else, So there is no strict criteria how you can judge your speech, And you don't have to try to put your speech into you don't have to put some standards on your speech. Just speak the way it feels natural, and the rest will come over time. Obviously, provided that you're working on your fluency, I'm sorry, that you're working on your spoken English on a regular basis. You practice your spoken English regularly every day, and you work with your mentality, with your confidence. Those two factors provided, it's going to happen naturally for as long as you don't force yourself. The third factor comes into play, because the moment you try to frantically think of the right thing to say, fluency goes out the window, And I've been touching upon this subject multiple times, throughout my videos and my articles, but I just decided to bring this subject up once more, just to bring it to your attention and to point out that it's of the utmost importance to completely remove the factor of forcing yourself, because that's a question I sometimes get from my English Harmony Systems customers, and they're asking things like, Robbie, how can I actually remember all those phrases that I learn during those speech exercising lessons, because there's so many of them, and then when I try to remember them, I really can't. I can remember some, but all the rest, I have a feeling that I forget them over time. The answer is, it's for the simple reason that you try to remember them, Even if you don't force yourself too hard, still, the very fact that you try to remember a phrase means that you do it at a conscious level, but you have to allow those phrases to be absorbed by your brain at a completely subconscious level. Obviously, there's a lot of spoken practice to be done, and it's actually working on your motor skills of your mouth. Motor skills is the so-called muscle memory. Basically, you're wiring those speech patterns into your brain and your mouth at the same time. But you have to let them kind of soak in, to be imprinted into your brain, and then let them be absorbed at a subconscious level. Because if you're trying to think of this and that and 100 more phrases at the same time, it all kind of disappears, it all vanishes, because all of a sudden you can't think of anything. And that's the typical fluency issue, whereby you just blank out and you get the feeling as if the more you learn, the less you know. But it's not the case if you leave it alone, Don't try to constantly recall those phrases. Let your brain absorb them. Let your mouth absorb them by speaking them multiple times. I'm sorry for my cough, but I can't help it. By repeating them multiple times is so-called spaced repetition technique. Repeat them a few times, and then after a couple hours, repeat them once more. Try to do some spoken practice by putting those phrases to good use, to let them be absorbed contextually, basically. Put them in some context, because we humans, our brain work based on contextual associations, We perceive the entire world through associations. That's how we operate. That's how we're... I really sound bad, guys. I know that. I'm aware of that. When I started recording this video, I didn't suspect that I was going to be that bad, so I'll call this today very soon. But let me just finish my point, which is that you have to let your brain to absorb them phrases, and then don't try to forcefully recall them. Just allow your intuition, your natural ability to improvise, allow that to bring those collocations and phrases to the fore, so to speak, So whenever you speak, just allow it to happen, as opposed to make it happen. Because if you make it happen, then you force yourself, to a certain degree. But if you just allow it to happen, then it's just gonna happen by itself. And that's how fluent speech happens. When I speak now, I don't really try to recall specific phrases, or I don't try to. I wanted to use the phrase. I'm not trying to put my finger on anything specific. That's what it's about. I don't try to be very specific. I don't try to kind of look things up in my inner vocabulary. I just allow it to happen. I just speak whatever comes into my mind. I don't perceive the process as of something coming up in my mind and then using that content. You just speak it out loud, the same way we speak in your native language. Obviously, this skill has to be worked on, and it has to be developed and honed and refined over the years, and that's what I have been doing on a regular basis. But the advice for you is, don't force yourself. That's the key. Do not force yourself to recall specific phrases. When you memorize them, when you repeat them, obviously you are going to work with specific phrases and you're going to be focused on it. But the moment you've learned them, just kind of let it happen by itself, Of course, you can go back to them, refreshing your phraseology, your active vocabulary, it has to be done. But what I'm saying is, when you speak with other people, the key aspect is not to try to force yourself to recall specific vocabulary, specific phrases, because the moment you try to do that, your fluency might be affected in a very bad way, and you might get stuck for words and experience the very, very severe fluency issue. Alright, my friends, thanks for watching this video, and I hope that you'll be heeding to this advice. Don't try to force yourself to recall anything specific. Just allow it to happen, and you'll see, to your surprise, you'll see that more often than not, it actually happens. Somehow, it just happens. And obviously, it's our natural, our innate means inherited, naturally inherited, so to speak, ability to produce whatever language patterns we've learned, and then we just allow them to come out of our mouths, That's how our speech happens naturally. Okay, my friends, thanks for watching, and see you soon again. Bye-bye.